Welcome to the Interventions Podcast. Remember, an intervention is a divine encounter with yourself, sometimes an all-out confrontation, so you can help you stop getting in your own way. Today is episode 2 of the podcast, and it's Self-Care Part 1, the problem with self-care. So this is the first episode in a series that's going to be of unknown length. It could be 5 episodes or 50. I am going to talk about self-care and address it until I have exhausted everything that I believe I have to offer on this topic. But we're starting here. And of course, leave it to me to find a problem with self-care, but it's probably not what you think. Stay tuned. I am excited to be here with you today, kicking off this series on self-care. Now, this series is not going to all be released in a single string. I will have self-care episodes peppered throughout the podcast. Whether it's 5 or 50 episodes, you'll just have to keep coming back to listen to see when the next one comes up. About 2 years ago, I was working on building courses, and self-care was going to be one of them. And I'm really glad that I turned it into dynamic and free content to be delivered here on the podcast, because it's going to give access to a wider audience. And it lends itself to my goal of supporting women, and hell, the men too, in taking this journey. So I'm just going to open a hot mic and go for it. So let's go. Now, I don't believe in wasting time to build suspense. So let's get right to it. What is my problem with self-care? For me, the problem is how it's defined. There's like 2 major categories of definitions of self-care. And the first one is aesthetics, your grooming, how you appear, your hair, your nails, your skin. And the second major definition I see of self-care has to do with escapism. People answering the question of how the hell do I escape this chaotic life? The life I created, in fact. How do I escape this periodically? Now, I believe both of those things have a place in the story of self-care. But really, if it was a movie, they're the extras. They're not the stars of the show. So the problem with the definitions of aesthetics or escapism, it keeps you stuck to surface or temporary fixes for something that I believe should be a permanent lifestyle, an ongoing inside job. But the other issue that I have with those definitions, they make self-care feel like a luxury, not this essential part of your daily life. I mean, aesthetics, many times that's a luxury. If you ever priced a face cream, you know what I'm talking about. Some of these face creams are $150 a bottle. The average woman who's looking to tend to a family and children and all of the expenses that comes with that is not going to go through the luxury of dropping $150 on a bottle of face cream. She's going to go straight to CVS or Walmart or something and pick up that Neutrogena. Okay. And then there's the escapism part. Many times the definition of self-care that falls under escapism has us taking luxurious vacations to the Caribbean. Now, like I said, that's a necessary part of self-care at some point. But if that's the way you define it, again, it sounds like a luxury. So that's not something that you're going to incorporate into your daily, weekly, or monthly routine, because the average person can't take a Caribbean vacation every month. Come on. Half of us can hardly take one every year. I've been stuck in a non-vacation loop for a very long time. And that's why I define self-care in a very different way. So here it goes. Now, my definition of self-care is a little long, but it's long for a reason. So you might want to just get up and get a pen and some paper or something, because I'm going to go ahead and define it, and here we go. I believe self-care is 100% responsibility and accountability for everything that comes into you as a person through your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, your skin, and yes, ma'am, even through your vaginal canal. Now, here's the other half of the definition. It's the same 100% responsibility and accountability for what comes out of you through your words, through your actions, your behavior, and yes, even through your vaginal canal, the children that you welcome into this world. Now, words matter. So what's the difference between responsibility and accountability? Because sometimes when we hear those words, we treat them like twins, but they're really more like cousins. They're not interchangeable. So to be impeccable with my word, I want to describe what I mean when I say responsibility and accountability for these things. So I started out with the definition term. I went straight to Merriam-Webster. Listen, Merriam-Webster and I get along just fine. And to be responsible is liable to be called on to answer, which is broken out into two parts. Liable to be called to account as the primary cause, motive, or agent. Second part, being the cause or explanation. Wow. And then there's also the idea of being able to answer for one's conduct and obligations. And let me tell you something. If you're obligated to anyone on this planet, it's you. You are obligated to yourself. So, what did Merriam-Webster, my good friend, say? It means to be accountable. Subject to giving an account. Answerable. Capable of being explained. So I see responsibility and accountability in my term for self-care to be something that occurs before you make the choice and something that occurs after. See, to be responsible means you're prepared to make mature choices that you anticipate will have a positive outcome for you and anyone else involved, when at all possible. To be accountable is to live out that choice and to literally be able to give an account of how things went according to the choice you made going into it. This is the full picture of responsibility and accountability when it comes to your self-care. So listen, I know that was a long definition, but let me ask you a question real quick. I know you listening to me talk. Let me ask you something. What other definition of self-care have you heard that gives you the power to craft a life that you don't feel like you need to escape? How about a life where you attract what you want, whether it's material or whether it's for your soul, like peace, joy, happiness, compassion, love? What else will help you craft a life like that by tending to yourself in a major and important way? A bubble bath, a Caribbean vacation? Nah, boo. Those things will contribute, but they won't build a life that you don't want to escape, a life where you are powerful and well and at peace. See, my definition of self-care forces you to be consistent. What you do, what you say, what you choose. Man, that mess better align with what you say you want. It better align with what you say you value. And it darn sure better align with what you say you believe. My definition of self-care does that. In fact, it's an antidote to cognitive dissonance. Now, for those of you who haven't heard that term before, it's a psychological term, and it kind of describes the conflict or the state of discomfort that results from what's called contradicting modes of thought. Kind of like when you're scattered all over the place, believing two opposite ideas or behaving in a way that doesn't align with your thoughts. I mean, it's kind of like someone who doesn't believe they're a racist. Self-proclaimed non-racist. I'm not bigoted at all. I don't see color. But they're the first person to get angry at a person with brown skin and yell the N-word. So why did you go there, sis? Or think about someone who prides themselves on being honest and transparent at all times, but then they find themselves telling a lie the size of Texas. Their conscience might go off the charts, dealing with the cognitive dissonance of behaving in a way that is not consistent with the way they describe themselves. And cognitive dissonance applies to new information, like this podcast. You may hear some things here that challenge how you think and how you behave right now in the current day. And what you do with that information to resolve the conflicting feelings. I mean, you can either sweep that new information under the rug and call me the craziest heifer you ever heard in your life, or you can take that information, eat the meat, spit out the bone, and make a powerful change in your life. That's self-care. But I digress. Let me get back. My mom once told me that she would observe the elderly in places they used to call it the old folks' home. And she said there were always two types. There were the ones who seemed angry at everyone. They were in conflict with everyone around them. And she said, I believe those are the ones who lived a life of so many regrets. And then she said she would see the ones that were nothing but joy. They would sit in their rocking chairs, and every once in a while, you could see one of them reminiscing on a memory and laughing to themselves, clearly enjoying the memories that they had of their life. She said, those are the ones who are content and satisfied with how they lived. Now, yeah, they could also be loony or both. But I believe that opens up the question of legacy. That's where the conversation of legacy begins. Because see, there was another lovely nugget my mom gave me that remains a part of my compass to this day and always will. And she said, leave a place better than you found it. Now, I remember my first apartment. I only lived there for 14 months because at that point, I was about to give birth to my youngest son. So I was leaving that apartment to buy a townhouse. Growing family, growing space. And I had my little letter in my hand, letting the management know that I'd be leaving. And I walked into the office and I was shocked. The two women in the office who I see all the time every month to pay my rent, they looked at my face, they looked down at my hand, then looked back up and just said, no. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, You're coming in here to tell us you're leaving, aren't you? And I was like, how did you know that? They were like, you were the perfect tenant. We can't even let you leave. And it was nice to be honored in that moment that they recognized me as one of the best tenants they ever had. But it was because of the way I treated that property. And honest to goodness, according to Mom's words, I left that property better than I found it. It wasn't in a shambles when I got there, but I sure as heck left it better than I found it. And I've come to understand how this applies to the people we meet and the places we go. And really the planet as a whole, to leave something better than you found it. Sometimes that's as simple as offering a sad person, a sad stranger, your smile. That changes their whole day. That's something that comes out of you that can change the energy in a room. See, and I'm getting back to I'm talking about legacy. Leaving something better than you found it is the legacy that you want to leave. And if you have children, or if you even have grandchildren at this point, that should become a breeding ground for your personal interventions. It's the perfect trigger to start asking yourself the hard questions of, what am I leaving them? Because although this is about self-care, the key word being self, I challenge you to allow my definition of self-care to begin your inner dialogue about your legacy. And here's what I mean. I was raised by a mother who came from the generation of women who were essentially taught, you run yourself into the ground for your family. You deplete yourself until there is no energy or joy or rest or peace left for you. And although she believed, and still does, that is the way a woman should show up in a family, what it did was it left a legacy that I did not learn how to care for myself watching her do that. And I spent a whole lot of years. I hadn't even heard the term self-care. Who the hell knew what that was? But I spent a lot of years depleting myself, saying yes when my yes should have been a hell no, not understanding that the quality of life I give to myself is what I use as the overflow for what I contribute to everyone else's life. I didn't understand that. And I didn't learn it from the legacy that I grew up under. This is why it's so important. If we want good things for our children, we have to demonstrate it in what we do, not what we say, because we know for a fact it doesn't go that way. Our children watch what we do, not what we say. We swear to the heavens and earths that the things that we're telling our children is sticking, but what's sticking is what we do. So if you want your children to live and your grandchildren and anyone else you come across to live this beautiful, peaceful, joyous life on their own terms, let me tell you, they need to see you do it. Don't hand them the memo. Don't hand them the book. Don't stand up on the soapbox and have the sermon. You need to do it. And for the young women who haven't started families yet, and you're not quite in the mode of thinking of legacy, let me tell you something. Let this series be a cautionary tale. So you don't get older and have to undo a multitude of choices later. Listen, take this as a head start, girl, and run. There you have it. That's essentially how I want to kick off the series on self-care, with a definition that is going to flow and be the theme for the rest of the pods. And I always promise to keep it short and sweet. And that's exactly what I did today. There's a good chance I may go to a longer format podcast in the future. But right now, I want to get those nuggets in. And of course, you know I love leaving you with homework. I think you're going to learn that about me as we go through this podcast life together. You can hear something all day. You can have a powerful aha moment. But that doesn't mean shiznit if you don't act on it. I want this podcast to be the voice you hear today, but the action that you take tomorrow. So here's your homework. I want you to consider areas in your life where cognitive dissonance exists. Perfect example. You want a husband, but you go to the club with the girls every Saturday and you raise your drinks in the air, and every men or dog song that comes on, you deep in it. You want to be wealthy, but everything that you say about wealthy folks is negative. Or you want to be thin and fit, but every time you see someone who has achieved that, you imagine they must be conceited or have some kind of huge ego. Right? We're talking about cognitive dissonance now. Consider what you can change about what you're letting in and what's coming out of you as it relates to your conflicted feelings. Take charge, take ownership of what you're letting in and what's coming out through your words and through your behavior. All right, I'm going to define it again. Self-care is 100% responsibility and accountability for everything that comes into your life through your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, your skin, and yeah, ladies, even through your vaginal canal. And it's also 100% responsibility and accountability for what is coming out of you through your mouth, through your actions, your behavior, and yes, ladies, through your vaginal canal, your reproductive choices. Listen, I'm going to break down every single part of that definition over time until I absolutely exhaust what I have to offer. It could be 3 years from now, and I might be like, hey, y'all, we're going to go ahead and do part 49 of this self-care series because I had an encounter that reminded me there's something else I have to offer. We're going to talk about the things we let in and how they impact our experience. And we're going to talk about the things that we let out, our words, our actions, our reproductive choices, and how that stuff impacts us and the people around us, because that is truly self-care. All right. As always, the last part of your homework is to head over to hawabond.com, HAWABOND, and leave some feedback. Is my definition of self-care a bunch of BS, or did it shift something for you? Better yet, did I miss something in that definition that you find to be critical? Of course, like and share as you head out the door, and I will see you next time.